Greetings and welcome to another edition of Seamless Style, powered by Polotix and Polaroids. I am your host, Mr. Parker. All right, so I decided, because I've been talking about the Tweed Iceberg that I wanted to do. I've been talking about it for a while, but I decided to go ahead and make it a Seamless Style episode. And as of right now, it will be exclusive to you Patreon members. Now, I probably will, which means I'm about 67% sure that I will eventually put this on YouTube for the masses. But as of right now, it's just exclusive to my wonderful Patreon members. All right. Now, an iceberg is simply a deep dive. Okay. The iceberg is what you see, is what is on top of or outside of the water. But typically, well, not typically, an iceberg has layers and levels under the water. And so in terms of just knowledge and information on a particular topic, they call it iceberg because there are layers that you may or may not be able to see that contribute to the top layer that you do see. All right, so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do an iceberg on tweed. Now, what is tweed? Tweed is a wool pattern fabric that has become synonymous with Scottish and Irish style. All right, the rough twill fabric originated in the Scottish Highlands in the 19th century, and it is still used today for coats, jackets, suits, and accessories. The fabric can be woven using a plain weave or twill weaves. All right. Tweed is an extremely warm, hard-wearing fabric that is thick and stiff. Pause. Wool tweed is often woven using different colored threads to achieve dynamic patterns and colors, frequently with small squares and vertical lines. Tweed is very popular for suiting and jackets, which were originally made out of the material for hunting activities. Now, the origins of tweed. Tweed was originally called twill, which is the Scots word for twill. All right. The most popular weaving technique for making tweed. The name, according to lore, came about when a London merchant misinterpreted the name twill for tweed, thinking the fabric was named for the River Tweed in Scotland. The name stuck, and the fabric has been called tweed since. The material originated in Scotland and Ireland, worn commonly by farmers. Tweed became popular with the upper classes across the British Isles after 1848, when Prince Albert purchased Balmoral Castle in Scotland and designed the unique Balmoral tweed. Each Highland estate began to make their own estate tweeds to differentiate themselves during hunting expeditions and other outdoor activities. Now, tweed is most popular for suiting and outerwear as a result of the warmth and rough, distinctive texture. All right. When it comes to tweed jackets, tweed sport coats for hunting were one of the first uses of the fabric, and the tradition continues today as tweed patterns populate many blazers and coats as both a practical and fashion statement. Tweed coats are extremely warm and long-lasting. A full tweed suit are also popular and can look extremely distinctive when accessorized well. It's a classic look and the textile provides great warmth and a vintage appeal. Now, as far as accessories, tweed hats and bags are also a common use for the fabric. Tweed caps are characteristic of highland farmers and weavers, but they're also a nice fashion statement. All right. Now, we decided to start at the bottommost tier of the iceberg. Let's move up another level and discuss the 8 different types of tweed. There are many different ways to make tweed fabric, and different types of tweed are named for the sheep they're made from, where the tweed is made, or after the type of weaving technique or pattern. Here are some of the more popular types of tweed. 1. Harris tweed. Harris tweed is a legally protected type of tweed made in the Outer Hebrides, an archipelago off the northern coast of Scotland. According to the Harris Tweed Act of 1993, Harris tweed is strictly defined as hand-woven by the islanders at their homes in the Outer Hebrides, finished in the Outer Hebrides, and made from pure virgin wool dyed and spun in the Outer Hebrides. 2. Donegal tweed. Donegal tweed is named for the Irish county of Donegal, where it originated. This is one of the most popular types of tweeds in the world, and it is distinguished by the rainbow-colored specks of yarn throughout the knobby surface. 3 is Saxony tweed. Saxony tweed from merino sheep, originally made in Saxony, Germany. The tweed is very soft and smooth due to the nature of the merino wool. Herringbone tweed. Herringbone is a broken twill weave that produces a pattern of V's on the surface of the fabric. Some say the herringbone pattern looks like fish bones, hence the name. 5. Shetland tweed. Shetland tweed is named for the sheep from the Shetland Islands, a group of islands far off the northeastern coast of Scotland. The wool is lighter and more delicate, creating a lighter weight, casual tweed. Barleycorn tweed. The weave of barleycorn tweed gives the effect and look of barleycorn kernels on the surface of the fabric. It's a very dynamic pattern and has a slightly bumpy feel. Cheviot tweed. Cheviot tweed is named for the type of sheep used to make the wool from the Cheviot Hills in the Scottish Borders region. It is generally rougher and heavier than other types of tweeds. And then finally, number 8 is overcheck twill. Overcheck twill is a plain twill fabric with a large checked design and a contrasting color, completing the tweed pattern. Now let's move up one more tier up the iceberg and let's discuss Harris tweed. Harris tweed is a tweed cloth that is hand woven by the islanders at their homes in the Outer Hebrides of Scotland, finished in the Outer Hebrides of Scotland, and made from pure virgin wool dyed and spun in the Outer Hebrides. All right. This definition, quality standards, and protection of the Harris Tweed name are enshrined in the Harris Tweed Act of 1993. So that's how serious Harris Tweed is. That's how top tier Harris Tweed is. For centuries, the islanders of Lewis and Harris wove cloth known as cloymore, which means the big cloth in Scottish Gaelic, and they wove it by hand. Originally woven by crofters, this cloth was woven for personal and practical uses and was ideal protection against the often cold climate from northern Scotland. The cloth was also used to trade or barter, eventually becoming a form of currency amongst islanders. It was not unusual for rents to be paid in blankets or lengths of the big cloth. By the end of the 18th century, the spinning of wool yarn from local raw materials had become a staple industry for crofters. Finished handmade cloth was exported to Scottish mainland and traded along with other commodities produced by the islanders, such as goat and deerskins. As the Industrial Revolution reached Scotland, mainland manufacturers developed mechanized weaving methods, with weavers in the Outer Hebrides retaining their traditional processes. The islanders of Lewis and Harris had long been known for the quality of their hand-woven fabrics, but up to the middle of the 19th century, this fabric was produced mainly for either home use or for trade and barter at the local market. When Alexander Murray, 6th Earl of Dunmore, inherited the North Harris estate from his father in 1836, production of tweed in Outer Hebrides was still entirely manual. Wool was washed in soft water before being dyed using dye stuffs derived from local plants and lichens. It was then processed and spun before being hand woven by crofters in their cottages. Traditional island tweed was characterized by the flecks of color achieved through the use of natural dyes, including the lichen known as crottle, gave the fabric deep red or purple brown and rusty orange colors respectively. The use of these lichens also resulted in distinctive scent that made older Harris tweed fabrics easily identifiable. Upon the death of the 6th Earl of Dunmore in 1843, responsibility for his estate on the Isle of Harris passed to his wife, Lady Catherine Herbert. Lady Catherine noticed the marketing potential and high quality of the tweed cloth produced locally by two sisters from the village of Strand, known as the Paisley Sisters, after the town where they had trained. The fabric woven by them was of a remarkably high quality than that produced by untrained crofters. In 1846, the Countess commissioned the sisters to weave lengths of tweed with the Murray family tartan. She sent the finished fabric to be made up into jackets for her gamekeepers and gillies on her estate. Being hard-wearing and water-resistant, the new clothing was highly suited for life on the Dunmore's estate. Her ideas were complemented by the work of Fanny Beckett. She organized the weavers, created training and quality control procedures, and promoted Harris tweed as a sustainable and local industry. The Countess began to promote the local textile as a fashionable cloth for hunting and sporting wear. It soon became the fabric of choice for the aristocracy of the time, including members of Queen Victoria's inner circle. With demand established for this high-quality Harris tweed, Lady Catherine sent more girls to the Scottish mainland for training. She improved the yarn production process to create a more consistent, workable cloth, and by the late 1840s, merchants from Edinburgh to London were supplying the privileged classes with hand-woven Harris tweed. Fanny Beckett moved to London in 1888, and the Scottish home industry, which managed the new product, became a limited company in 1896. From this point on, the Harris tweed industry grew, reaching a peak production figure of 7.6 million yards in 1966. As the demand for Harris tweed expanded in the first decade of the 20th century, there was an influx of weavers into the industry seeking a wage, and soon a poorer quality of tweed was being made by inexperienced weavers from imported mainland mill-spun yarn. This inferior tweed affected the market for traditional Harris tweed made by experienced weavers from hand-spun yarns. Legal protection of the name of Harris tweed by a trademark and an established standard definition became essential. Groups of merchants from both Lewis and Harris applied to the Board of Trade for a registered trademark. When this trademark was eventually granted, the board insisted that it should be granted to all the islands of the Outer Hebrides, i.e. to Lewis, North and South Erst, Becula, and Barra, as well as to Harris. The rationale for the decision being that the Tweed was made in exactly the same way in all of those islands. In 1909, after much negotiation and a degree of acrimony from merchants in Harris, who felt that the trademark should have been granted exclusively to Harris, the Orb trademark was granted. The Harris Tweed Association, a voluntary body, was formed to protect both the use of the Orb trademark and to protect the use of the name Harris Tweed from imitations. The original definition attached to the Orb trademark stated that Harris Tweed means a tweed hand-spun, hand-woven, and dyed by the crofters and collars of the Outer Hebrides. In 1993, a new statutory body to guard the Orb trademark, the Harris Tweed Authority, replaced the original Harris Tweed Association. Also in 1993, an act of parliament, the Harris Tweed Act 1993, established the Harris Tweed Authority as the successor to the Harris Tweed Association. Its purpose being to promote and maintain the authenticity standards and reputation of Harris Tweed, for preventing the sale as Harris Tweed of material which does not fall within the definition. So we look at the visible tier of the iceberg. That brings us to today. You have different iterations of tweed through various brands and fashion houses. But let's be honest. Ralph Lauren is the standard bearer of hand-spun, hand-woven tweed materials and tweed pieces. Ralph Lauren is known to collaborate and have pieces that are strictly Harris Tweed. But with that said, the wool, the process of these tweed mills and these tweed looms for spinning and processing the Ralph Lauren Tweed brand is second to none. It's second to none. You own a tweed jacket, you own a tweed sports coat, feel it, touch it. It's the top quality. It's top quality. It feels exactly how tweed feels. It wears exactly how tweed should wear. And whether you are the only owner or that particular piece that you're looking at or that you're touching or that you're wearing right now has been in several different Goodwills and you have no idea how many people have owned it because it's a piece from 1984, it's still in great shape. It's still in great shape. It's in a perfect shape for a tweed jacket. Tweed is my go-to fabric. It's my go-to fabric because of the look, the way it is not formal, but could still be dressed up to certain levels, the way it could be dressed down and worn simply as an outerwear piece that you just wanted to throw on because you love how it feels and it keeps you warm. The quality of the Ralph Lauren wool that is used to make these tweed pieces is impeccable. Wool is such a wonderful fabric because it can, for one, wool can keep you warm when it's cold outside, but yet it could actually keep you cool when it's hot outside. There are not many fabrics that are made like that. And that's why when we talk about tweed, depending on the type of tweed that we're talking about, i.e. the 8 different styles of tweed that I presented to you earlier, depending on the type of tweed, you can potentially wear tweed from fall all the way through mid to late spring. What other fabric can you do that with? This has been a wonderful experience. Hopefully you all gained a lot of knowledge here with this iceberg. I had a great time doing it. It was great. It was just really cool to be able to look up some of this material, read through it, and gain more insight on Tweed. All right. Get in the comment section, man, and just tell me tell me about you know what I want you to do? I want you to get in the comment section and tell me about your first experience with Tweed. What was your first experience? I can tell you mine was a sports coat, working at a factory outlet store for Ralph Lauren. And I don't know where it came from. I don't know if it came out of the back of house or if it was a return, but there was a Tweed sports coat on the clearance rack. And at the time it was my size, and I just really loved how it felt. Like it was a barley corn, so I just really loved how it felt, how rough it felt. But I also enjoyed how it looked. Like it looked really comfortable. So because it was my size at the time, I didn't even try it on. I just bought it and went home after my shift. And when I put it on, when I tell you guys, I put that thing on and I was like, wait a minute, man, this is freaking awesome. I felt like a totally different person in that jacket. And so when I started doing research on how to style Tweed and things of that nature, man, the rabbit hole that I went down as far as advertisements, Ralph Lauren advertisements, print ads, things of that nature. Yeah, I was probably on the tablet for a good 2 hours, and it was just up from that moment on. And today I'm sure I have at least 40 Tweed sport coats alone, a couple of suits, a couple of Tweed suits, a couple of flannel suits, which is different from Tweed, but the look is very similar. Tweed jackets, Tweed bags, a gang of Tweed caps. I'm a Tweed guy. All right. So get in the comments, man, and tell me what was your first experience with Tweed. All right. Artists paint pictures and haters paint narratives. So don't be no hater, man. Y'all have a good one.